Welcome to What the Ales Beers of the Week. I'm Blake Jarlin with COOP Ale Works, and we decided that we wanted to figure out how we could bring F5 and all that it means to the community and Oklahoma craft beer community into a different format. F5 has been the best-selling beer for our brewery for at least a decade, and as we looked at F5 and what it meant to the brewery, we wondered how we could move into creating these 4 beers for the mix pack. So we created a Grapefruit F5, a Hazy F5, a Juicy F5, and an Imperial F5. And each one of those has a story that kind of how it may use a different yeast or a different set of hops to create the difference, all being inspired by original F5. So the Imperial, that was one that honestly came right down to the wire. I had made some triple IPAs on the pilot system for the tap room. I had done some other things. I honestly thought that I was going to go with some more downstream hop products that some of the hop suppliers are pushing now. And it did have some of that in there, but not nearly as much as I expected. Whenever I made several test batches, kind of gave people 3 to choose from. The one that was dry hopped with regular old T90 pellets really seemed the one that continued to rise to the top. And honestly, I think the one I'm most surprised with. I find myself, of the 4 in the mix pack at this point, strangely, in my older age, gravitating to the higher alcohol one. I do really enjoy it, and you know, obviously responsibility is important with everything, but with that one, you know, just making sure you're taking care of yourself. But really enjoy that one, and I think the sales team is surprised by its traction as well. It's available in a couple of different formats along with the Grapefruit F5, and it may be the next one, if the trend continues, that pulls out of the mix pack into its own 6-pack. Right now, the Grapefruit F5 is in 6-pack and is the only one available in 12-ounce cans besides outside of the mix pack, I should say. Yeah, we have statewide distribution. All of our retail liquor outlets have done a great job picking it up, and I think have had great success. There are chain stores out there as well, your Walmarts and On-Qs that have put them in there as well, and so they're pretty readily available, and have been moving with good velocity, and we hope that keeps up as it moves on. This has been What the Ales Beers of the Week with our F5 variety pack. Cheers. About a year ago, we started thinking about this idea of an F5 mix pack and started to look at some of the things that was popular, some of the other beers that we brewed, some of the hops that we've learned about. So one of them in particular was these fresh frozen hops that we discovered at Hop School a few years ago. And whenever I tasted a test beer from them, I was really taken aback. It was one of the closest representations of what the what hops tasted like from what they smelled like on the vine. So you had that experience in Yakima. You're walking through the streets and these bales are driving by and you just get this massive waft of hop smell. And a lot of times you can get that in dry hopping, but the way that flavor translates is not always the same. So these fresh frozen 301 hops that come from Yakima Chief, I was really implored to brew with after that. So if you have followed us closely, we released a fresh frozen in a mix pack, and we did some things with those hops. But as we dialed it in and found a way to make it more feasible financially, they have to get shipped frozen and they have to be stored frozen. So anything for a batch, even a 30-barrel batch, would take a good bit of a chest freezer's worth of hops. So how could we do this on a more consistent basis to provide this to the customer? So that was kind of one nugget of, I know I would like to incorporate that into this F5 mix pack to kind of represent how they've gotten the flavor out of these hops. So that was kind of the inspiration behind the Hazy. Grapefruit, for example, has been one of the best-selling beers in our tap room ever since, I believe, Aaron Cross came up with it back in the day. He's now passed the reins to Brett. but that's always been a staple for us. How do we make that a shelf-stable product? How do we make it a good representation of what people were drinking in the tap room? Because anytime we had it, people loved it. So we did a lot of math and stability tests and trials, and not all of them turned out great, but we're really happy with how close we've landed. And we'll see in actual shelves how we stand the test of time with all these beers, but Grapefruit F5 is one that I'm really curious to see. Matter of fact, right before I came, we were tasting stuff that's been in the boiler room and other things to make sure the stability of the product and how the flavor holds up with the juice in there is something that we're willing to continue to put our name on over our shelf life tests. We had our anniversary party a couple weeks ago. We raised probably near $20,000 to the Humane Society, and with that we had a couple of beers that we're really proud of. We had a packaging manager, Shelby Jones, who had been working on a Helles lager on the pilot system for well over a year now. He was very meticulous about its brewing process, about its lagering, and when it came time to figure out what we were going to brew for the anniversary party, it was a pretty clear decision. With most of the time we would make the Helles and it would be gone because employees would drink it before it made it even to the tap room. So we actually found a way to step mash on our single infusion brew house by using some of our periphery cleaning equipment to heat the mash and do it, and that actually worked surprisingly well. And so that was a fun thing. We've never done it before or since on the brew house, but it will definitely be something we use in the future whenever we're making certain kinds of beer. So that anniversary Helles is something that he's super proud of and should be, and was a great success. And then we also released a vanilla barrel-aged stout at the anniversary party. Came in at 14.1%. Some of the barrels that came out into that blend were filled back in 2019, which is beyond conventional wisdom for them still to taste good, but they ended up being, with a variety of other barrels, the ones that made up the blend. We put, I think in 5 barrels, 3 pounds vanilla beans, which isn't anything at an insane level, but it definitely made a good top note for the beer, and super proud of those 2 beers to release at our 15th anniversary party.